Hi folks, Mr. Long here. Today what we're going to do is a screencast on volume of spheres. So when you're thinking volumes of spheres, I should have it in my hand like a tennis ball, right? Something like that. And we're going to use the formula for spheres, which is 4 times pi r cubed divided by 3. We've got some questions from your textbook, or from a textbook, the grade 9 textbook that I've been sharing with you online. And so I'm going to go through one example. It's printed out, or there is a printout on Google Classroom. I would encourage you to print that out if you can, if you're able to, and then fill it in as you go through. Otherwise, maybe you can copy down the solutions step by step, and that way you'll have an opportunity to look at those when you go to try and do your practice questions later. All right, so let's get going. So here's our problem. I'm planning on making a spherical chocolate, like a huge one, and it's going to be a chocolate soccer ball. Well, it's not going to be, well, it's still pretty big. It's going to be 10 centimeters in diameter. So you can see that big 10 centimeter chocolate soccer ball there. Okay, so I've got to go through a few parts to be able to do that, right? So I've bought a whole bunch of chocolate chips, some Chip-Its, and I'm going to melt them down, and that's the first part. So I'm going to melt down all my chocolate chips, and when it's nice and liquidy, I'm going to pour it into this plastic shape, which is a cube, right? And so once I get my plastic cube filled in, I've got to let it cool down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a chocolate cube. Well, how do I turn a cube into this sphere up here? Well, I'm going to cut off all the corners, right? I'm going to carve it. I'm going to be a carver of chocolate, and I'm going to carve it and smooth it out until I get a beautiful spherical chocolate. Okay, so that's the process. So you need to help me with the calculations, and let's just go through what they would look like. So the first thing is I'm going to get the volume of this cube, right? Volume of the cube. And I think you remember that the volume of a cube is length times width times height. And I always try to make, now this is a trickier one, that's obviously the height, and then how far it goes into the page, I often pick as the length, so that could be the length, and then side to side is the width, so I can pick the width or the length, either one, it's not going to matter because my calculations are going to work out the same. So what's the volume of that chocolate cube that I need? So length, so it's 10 multiplied by 10. Remember, brackets mean multiplication. And then I get an answer. Well, let's look at our calculator. I'm suggesting that you use, if you don't have a scientific calculator at home, I'd like you to be using the Desmos scientific calculator, okay, the Desmos one. So what we had there was 10, and I had it all in brackets, didn't I? So I can go brackets, 10, end bracket, start bracket, 10, end bracket, start bracket, 10. Or I could do 10 times 10 times 10. And you can see the answer is on the far right. Okay, the answer is 1,000. And let's see, yeah, we've got in projector mode, okay? So this is a free app, by the way. You can get this for free for Android or for iOS. So, or you can use it online. All you do is Google, and I'll put a link on there, Desmos Scientific. So it's 1,000. Now that's a centimeter, centimeter, centimeter. That's a centimeter cubed. So let's go back to this. So that's 1,000. And this is a centimeter, that's a centimeter, that's a centimeter. So centimeters cubed. By the way, that's exactly the volume of 1 liter. So you know how you have your 1 liter milk containers? Ooh, I'm not very good at drawing this, am I? There's the 1 liter milk container. That's 1 liter, but it's also 1,000 centimeters cubed. Okay, or 1,000 milliliters. It also a milliliter means the same thing as a centimeter cubed. Okay, because you're going to need to do that in a calculation. All right, so let's read this part here. Each chocolate chip is 2 centimeters cubed. Okay, or we could say chocolate chips are 2 centimeters cubed per chip, or they have a volume of 2 centimeters cubed per chip. Now those would be really big, big chocolate chips. Be ones that I would like. And mine, if I was making this, it would be milk chocolate, by the way, rather than semi-sweet. I like the milk chocolate. Okay, so So each chocolate chip is 2 centimeters cubed. And let's see, how do I know that's a rate? So signals for rate are each or per. Like each one weighs this much, that's a rate. So as soon as we know that we've got rates, I can make a rate table if I want, right? So I don't have to do it this way. Like a lot of you will just be able to do it through what I would say is intuition, like you're just going to know what to do. But if you don't, as soon as you know you have a rate, you can set it up that way. So one of the things with our rate table, we know that, what have we got? 2 centimeters cubed per 1. I'll put CC for chocolate chip. Okay, that's your rate. 2 centimeters cubed per chip, per 1 chip. Okay, per 1 chocolate chip. And we know, oh, what's the top measure? That's volume. And then the bottom measure is the number of chocolate chips, cc's. So then I've got, what's the other number that I know? Well, 1,000 centimeters cubed. So I could write 1,000 centimeters cubed there. So remember that there's a variety of ways to do these. I can do them up and down, or I can go side to side in the table, but I take the bigger number and divide it by the smaller number. So 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. And then I go down to this part of the table and I see, okay, well, as I go to the right, will my number get bigger or smaller? Well, if I went from 2 to 1,000, the number gets bigger. So am I going to multiply or divide? Well, I think I would multiply. So it's going to be 1 times by 500. So that's 500. So I would need 500 chocolate chips. Okay, but again, if you can just do that intuitively and do 1,000 divided by 2 is 500, that's fine as well. But you use the ratio tables if you're not sure what to do. Okay, so as soon as you see a rate or a ratio, you can use that ratio table. All right, so now that we know how many chocolate chips we are going to need to melt, it's time to go in the kitchen and melt the chocolate, put it into the we call them a form, I guess. Pour the chocolate in there, and then we're going to let it cool off. And now we're about to start our next step. Okay, our next step. And now, once we've got this cooled down, let's see. Once we've got this cooled down, we can actually go about making our sphere. Okay, so this is the main part of your learning for today, and that's using this formula right here. Okay, 4 pi r cubed divided by 3 gives you the volume or the space or the capacity, right, of a sphere, something like a balloon or a soccer ball. And so what we need to do is figure out, if you notice what's in the formula, it's the r, the radius. If I go over to that picture, what does that picture show? Is that radius? It's not. Remember that radius is halfway across the circle or the sphere. Okay, that's radius. So that 10 centimeters is all the way. We call that diameter. So what would radius be for this one? Well, the radius, whoops, let's write it right here. The radius is going to be 10 divided by 2, right, which is 5. So the radius is actually 5 centimeters. So if you have a calculator that you can do exponents with, then this is pretty, and I don't like, by the way, the scientific calculators that come with the iPhone and the Android phones, it's not very good. That's why I would encourage you to download Desmos Scientific. It's a lot easier to use. So let's see, I know pi is 3.14, so what would I write down here? I'd have 4 multiplied by pi, which is 3.14. I can put that in a bracket. Radius is 5 for that sphere, and then I have to cube it and then divide that by 3. So let's take a look at how we would do this with the Desmos calculator. So if you look in the bottom, oh, I need to make this a little bit, I'm not sure how I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. I don't think I can. Well, that's okay. So what you want to press is, there's a fraction button on the far right, the A over B. And in the far right in the near the bottom. So we're going to have, yeah, this is hard to do, isn't it? Because it's not fitting in the window. Oh well, that's okay. That's okay. We'll work our way through this. So what we've got to do is 4 times, or brackets, 4, then brackets, 3.14, end bracket, and then we do another bracket. The radius is 5, and then you see a button that says A with an exponent B on it, okay, in the top left. So we do that, and it's 3, and then I use the arrow down, or arrow over actually. So I arrow over, there's an arrow over, and then I can go, or actually I can just tap, because I'm using my iPad, I can tap on the bottom, and I can put divide by 3. Okay, so I know you can only see the 4, but what it says is 4 times 3.14 times 5 cubed divided by 3. And that's, so 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. Now, if you look at the answer there, and the equals button is the blue button in the bottom. So there it is. Okay, that's what the value of that is. Okay, it's 4 pi times 5 cubed divided by 3. And so that's how you use Desmos calculator. And what I'm going to suggest you do is, so let's go and record that answer. 523.3. And that's centimeters cubed. Okay, so that's the volume of that chocolate once we make it into a sphere. I might have said a cube earlier, but that's the sphere. So now I want to know, because the best part of this really is that I get to eat off all the shavings, right? All the part that I carved off. So how much do I get to eat? Okay, how much do I get to eat? Well, the whole box is 1,000, right? The original cube was 1,000. If I take away what I've got left over, which is that sphere, 523.3, then I know how much I have left. And that looks like, well, 1,000 minus 500 is 500. So I'm going to say that's going to be about 476.7 centimeters cubed. That's pretty crazy, eh? If you think about it, the sphere fits perfectly in the cube, and it still occupies only about half the volume. So that's actually a lot of chocolate. That's a half a liter of chocolate. So think of a liter container of milk. That would be a half of that to eat of chocolate. Be pretty enjoyable, but there's a lot of chocolate. Okay, so here's what you need to do. Make sure that you've written down all your answers into the handout. Hopefully you had a chance to print out the handout. And then what you want to do is practice using your calculator. Hopefully you went and downloaded Desmos Scientific, or if you're working on a computer, you can go to Desmos, like on a Chromebook, you just Google Desmos Scientific, and I'll leave that link as well in Google Classroom. Okay, so, and then all your practice questions are in Google Classroom as well. All right, make sure you do them all. There's quite a few. It'll take you a while, but you could spread it out over a couple of days. Okay, folks? Hopefully that helps. Have a good day.